spiritual studies or spiritual education and the path of spirituality is also fundamentally about the nature of self, nature of reality, even the nature of matter and the occurring world. And quantum physics is, of course, the lens of looking at the same reality, but in a very, very micro instrument. As long as you're not dogmatic about your beliefs about either of the two, you can begin to see that both of them are saying the same thing. All it requires is a little bit of an open mind and creative resourcefulness to be able to draw those conclusions. Let me give you an example. Like in quantum physics, there's this famous double slit experiment where it's concluded that definitive reality does not exist till the time an observer does not observe a quantum system. So we say a quantum system is in superposition. That means, let's say an electron could be anywhere within its orbit until it is observed. When it is observed, then it can only be in the place where it is observed and nowhere else. So one interpretation of that is that the wave function collapses and a definitive reality is born in the process of observation. So this in quantum physics is called the measurement problem, because it almost seems like there is something in the act of observation that actually creates a definitive reality. Before that, anything could be possible, like Schrödinger's cat could be dead or alive at the same time. Now, if we stretch this argument to a metaphoric principle that observer creates reality and that reality is tied only to that space-time frame or that brain in which that reality is created. So Hugh Everett's interpretation, which is different from the classical Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics, Hugh Everett's interpretation essentially says that the act of observation does not collapse the wave function, rather there is a branching out, where there is one universe in which the electron is at this definitive place, but there are other infinite universes in which the electron is at all the other places that it could possibly be. And all those universes exist simultaneously, meaning if I can jump left or jump right, and I jump left, then in one universe I have jumped left, but there is another universe which is branched off in which I have jumped right, and yet another universe in which I haven't jumped at all. I don't really know which of these interpretations is correct, and that doesn't matter. The important principle here to understand is that there is a causal intervention of some kind that we haven't fully understood by the act of measurement of observation, which is created as a definitive reality. Now let's see, how do we say it in the spiritual context? In the spiritual context, we say that the observer, when it experiences a duality from the Brahman, when Atman experiences a duality as separate from the Brahman, the impermanent world of Maya or the illusionary world is born. So all the reality that we see and experience as human beings is born inside of the duality of the Atman forgetting its innate nature of the Brahman. So in some sense, it's the similar causal factors at play, where manifestation of this indefinitive, temporal, Maya world, illusionary world, impermanent world is born from the act of duality. That is the moment when the observed and the observed separate. Not very different from what you observe in the quantum realm. Let me give you just one more example, just to draw clarity. In the spiritual lens, we say that there is no is world. Everything that we see outside is a manifestation or projection of what's inside us. And all that reality is not distinct from us. And it is impermanent. It can be extinguished in a moment. And it's not really material. Now let's look at what the physics of very, very small elements of nature, quantum physics has told us. According to quantum physics, first the physics started with saying the world is made up of atoms, okay? Atoms were supposed to have nucleus and electrons. Then after a while they realized, well, atoms are not the smallest thing. They have subatomic particles. There's neutrons, protons, and electrons. Then we looked at the world that way. Then they said, oh, no, we've changed our mind. They're the standard model of particle physics. So now we've got neutrinos, we've got gluons, we've got bosons, we've got muons, and so on and so forth. Those are the small building blocks. And then science changed its mind again and said, no, actually that is not complete. We have strings of energy, which when depending on what frequency at which they vibrate, they appear as different particles. So meaning, if it is vibrating at a particular frequency, let's say d is equal to 45, it's a neutrino. If it is vibrating at d is equal to 20, and I'm making all this up, it is a positron. And then they said, that's also not complete. Actually, below the string, in the vacuum, there is infinite energy, and the quantum vacuum fluctuations taking place in vacuum, in which all of this is manifesting from nothing, from vacuum. So, infinite energy of the vacuum. So, let me help you understand what quantum physics is saying. According to quantum physics, there is infinite energy, nothing, the vacuum, from which vacuum fluctuations give birth to strings, which then give to subatomic particles, which then create atoms, which then create all this world, which is 99.996 sigma, is empty space. What does Rig Veda says? Pure consciousness is the ground of everything. Nothing of this pure consciousness arises everything that you observe, and into this nothingness dissolves everything that you observe. I don't think it requires a lot of creative imagination to say there are two ways of saying the same thing. Of arising of the whole material world, stars and galaxies, from quantum vacuum fluctuations, the infinite energy of the vacuum, and from the sea thought of pure consciousness arising this mithya, maya, illusionary world of temporal reality that we experience. So my point always is, you cannot solve equations using the Vedas, and you cannot understand the nature of true transcendent, infinite, atemporal, nirguna reality from the formulas of quantum physics. So you need to know what your intention is. Do you want a computable, predictable model that you can solve a Lagrangian and solve the wave function of the universe? Or do you want to challenge your mind with metaphorical insight to understand the innate nature of life and the universe itself? If you are clear about your intent, you can choose which lens. And please stop trying to equate two lenses from each other. I think if you've understood both lenses, your worldview is way richer than if you had only one lens.